Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon, generously sponsored by Arconas, on enhancing terminal spaces and passenger experience with sustainable FF&E practices. My name is Lisa Dio, and I am Senior Director of Education and Accreditation for ACC, and I am going to be behind the scenes today as we have this great panel. And one thing I'd like to mention to everyone before we get started is that our presenters are going to make a presentation, but also are available to answer any and all questions that you may have. There is a Q&A box that you'll notice on your screen. So we ask you to put your questions in there. The presenters cannot see your questions if you put them in chat. So just a reminder to put your questions in Q&A. And with that, we're going to get started, and I would like to introduce our moderator today. So our moderator is Lynn Gordon, and she is Vice President of Global Business Development at Arconas. In 2000, Lynn created the dedicated Airport Solutions Division, a group of sales and project management professionals specialized in unique requirements of airports. In that time, Lynn has worked on more than 400 airport installations in North America and across the globe. Arconas is the leading manufacturer and distributor of furniture for airports and passenger terminals. Arconas was the first manufacturer in North America to introduce the use of injection molded CFC-free cold-cured foam. Our foam and metal components are 100% recyclable. Our public seating products meet the requirements of ANSI, BIFMA emission standards M7.1 2011, are low VOC and do not contribute to poor indoor air quality. The Arconas products, can also contribute towards your building achievable LED credits. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lynn, and Lynn, you can take it away.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy day to join us for this really interesting discussion about sustainability. There, thanks, Lisa. Sustainability is really shaping the future of airports. It's a priority for airport operators across the globe. And we're going to talk today about our part of it, which is the FF&E in the terminals. FF&E practices, and they can enhance operational efficiencies, they can elevate passenger experience, and help reduce the environmental impact when done well. We also believe that by prioritizing sustainable solutions and partnering with companies that share that vision, airports can create spaces that benefit both the traveling public, but also the planet. Go to the next slide. So today's learning objectives, we're going to take I have a basic understanding of sustainable practices. We're going to analyze the impact of eco-friendly choices and the benefits of those choices to the environment and to operations. And we're also hopefully going to inspire some change. You can learn a little bit from some of the leading companies here on the panel that are integrating sustainability into their day-to-day business practices. But also we're hoping will inspire to encourage you all to instigate discussions and initiate discussions within your own organizations in how you can drive more sustainability in your projects and your day-to-day operations. Go to the next slide. And without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce our panel today. We have a wonderful panel of experts here. We have Sandra Chaglassian. She's a product specialist. We've worked together for a long time with Green Furniture Concept America. And she's going to be talking to us a little bit about what they are doing from a manufacturing side of things to create a more sustainable product. We also have Britta Forrest Hampson. She's the CEO of USM Airport Systems. She's joining us today from Germany. And she'll be talking about a very exciting initiative that USM Airport Systems is adopting for their manufacturing processes. Something that I got a presentation earlier this year and found very fascinating. So hope you will too. And last but absolutely not least, we have Ginger G. DeFurio. Ginger G is a Vice President of the Studio Design Director with Corgan Architects. So thank you very much and welcome panel. So first off, starting us off today is Sandra Chaglassian. Sandra is a seasoned marketing and design professional with a strong focus on sustainable furniture solutions for airports. She has spent over a decade with Green Furniture Concepts and its partners and to provide trusted, innovative, and eco-conscious furnitures to airports worldwide. With background steeped in the furniture manufacturing industry, Sandra brings a unique blend of industry insight and commitment to reducing the carbon footprint of her projects. Her expertise has helped elevate airport environments, enhancing both passenger experience and the airport's environmental impact. So I'm now going to turn over to Sandra. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I'm very happy to be here today and talking about sustainability with all of you on today's webinar. So as Lynn said, I'm Sandra. I'm with a company called Green Furniture Concept. And as you can tell from our name, if we can just advance to the next slide, please. As you can tell from our name, green and environmental concerns and sustainability are in the DNA of our company and everything that we think about and do and produce. And it all sort of comes from this idea here that there's an estimate of over 80% of all product-related environmental impacts that are determined during the design phase of a product. I think this is a universal truth that we could all sort of agree on. And ultimately, it is the concept at Green Furniture Concept. This is what we believe in. Let's just move to the next slide and you can see precisely that this is it. This is what we believe in at Green Furniture. This is our concept that from the very first thought of a product, we think about the materials that go into it, as opposed to sort of the other way, which I think is more traditional and somewhat what we're used to. Let's take an example of a very mundane product I have on my desk here, a mouse, a computer mouse. A lot of times what we do with products is we sort of look at the products that already exist and we backtrack and we say, okay, we have this great product, everyone uses it all the time. Now let's break down the components and figure out how we can use recycled materials, smarter materials, more, and that certainly works, but it's counterproductive and it's slower. At the concept that we believe in, that's really in our DNA, is to think of the materials at the design phase so that everything we do output has a very responsible carbon footprint. So obviously this has great value and it's value that we're proud to uphold because it ultimately makes for a good choice, a good environmental choice for airports, and it's a choice that airports can feel proud of being part of, a choice that they feel that they can trust, and ultimately a choice that will impact the experience of passengers. More on that a little bit later. Let's break down a little bit about the designing with environmental sustainability. When we think about designing green, if you will, there are sort of three elements that you want to look at. First would be a circular design checklist. It's a tool that we use in development just to make sure that the materials that we're using, and this is a list that everybody can sort of lean on, to make sure that materials don't have negative impacts on the environment and that they're not, making sure that nothing sort of negative is slipping into the materials list. We also want to evaluate the chemical content of all the materials that we're using and promote recycled technical materials, sustainably sourced biological materials, as opposed to sort of materials that are not loopable. And then, of course, we use sustainable certifications to guarantee requirements from our clients, and as a baseline guide in material and chemical selection. So we're not only looking at the certification requirements of the end user, but we're also looking at the certifications that our suppliers have as well. So certifications from both ends matter. When we're talking about green design and development, design is very important in the sort of full equation. And the key here is to make sure that design is timeless, that it is classic, that it isn't sort of trendy and expiring soon, because that means it has to be replaced. So we're looking at more focus on biophilic designs, designs that are connected to nature, that offer warm materials, and most importantly, that are inclusive, so use for everybody. We're also thinking a lot about function when we're talking about green design and development, which means that we're looking at what our clients need, what their clients need, and making sure that we narrow in on those needs. But going even further than function, we want to make sure that there's even added value, and bringing in those values for our clients. So, you know, sometimes they may not even realize, but added values of modularity in furniture, ease of maintenance, customization, etc. And naturally, when we're talking about green design development, sustainability is extremely important, thinking about sustainability. And this brings us to the 3 principles of circular economy, which let's elaborate on those in the next slide. So these may seem simple in practice, but they are complex to execute. It is important to design out waste and pollution. It's important to keep materials and products in a loop. So we are looking for materials and products that don't end up in the picture that you see here on the left, but rather get to be reused in a second, third time in their life. And then it's really important that we consider materials that come from renewable natural systems. So as you see in the picture here, wood. Wood's a great renewable material because it can be replanted when it is cut down. A big part of our sustainable design is evaluating our carbon footprint. And that's something that we actually do in-house, which is a huge point of pride for Green Furniture. We have what's called LCA software. It's a life cycle assessment software. And essentially what we're doing with this software is getting a report of all the materials that we've used and the output that they give. So at the design phase, right at the beginning, we could put together material formulas and see what that carbon footprint would be, and then adjust accordingly. Now, a lot of companies that are embarking on LCA software evaluations can do this from a third party, and that's perfectly fine. But we pride ourselves from having this software available to us in-house because we get that immediate sort of interaction with the output, so that we're on top of our carbon footprint at a very, very close level. And then, of course, carbon offset means that we would plant trees for everything that we produce. And actually, a really cool project that we've had since the very beginning of our company is to replant trees for every module of furniture that we've sold. We've planted more trees than I could possibly tell you in the rainforests of Colombia. We also plant through a great company in the US, North America, called One Tree Planted. Let's just advance to the next slide, please. And the next one. Thanks. I'll try and go through a couple of quick little examples of specifics of what we do in our products, how we use renewable or natural materials. So this one's really neat. This is the plastic glide that is at the base of our benches, our Nova C series, and it sort of anchors or it prevents the benches from wobbling. Very functional little part of the bench, but we use 100% recycled plastic made from old fishing nets. So that is a really important material for us. I mean, it's something that could easily be just, oh, let's just use such a small part, let's just put some plastic. But for us, it's finding that supplier that can make this from old fishing nets. Another material that we use that we're very proud of is the extruded aluminum that has a possibility of a closed loop and a very high recycled content. And this is being used in our Ascent series, our latest seating line that we introduced. And then in the next slide, we have the wood finish that we use on all of our seating lines. This is a very interesting wood finish. It is not your traditional furniture stain. It has very technical explanation as to why it's different, which I love getting into, but I think for today, we'll keep it brief. So you'll have to take my word for it. And if you're interested, I can get into it later. But it is an extremely durable, super eco-friendly wood finish that allows our product to stay looking as brand new for years in the highest passenger environments, highest traffic environments like airports. That's very, very important when we're talking about the longevity of products. So the golden rule with everything that I've sort of gone over today with designing green is to not just tell a green story, but to show the green story. And the way you do this is by incorporating biophilic designs into the passenger terminals. This is how you sort of indicate to the passengers that you have made an effort towards going into the green design and environmental sustainability. The value of this on the next slide is really interesting because there's been a lot of research that shows that integrating biophilic designs is very important in helping passengers to reduce their stress, reduce their blood pressure levels, increase their productivity, increase their creativity, and of course, increase their feeling of well-being. Ultimately, biophilic design is the art of bringing the outdoors in, and that's something that we're very proud of doing at Green Furniture. And I think it's something that passengers around the world really do enjoy having. So we're very proud of being that part of that change. So that's what I have for you all today. I look forward to hearing from the rest of my colleagues on the panel and certainly hearing your questions at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Very interesting stuff, and I love the environments that you've been able to create. They really are truly very beautiful. Next speaker up is I'm very pleased to introduce Britta Forrest-Hampson. Britta joined USM in September 2014 to head up the aviation division, which is known as USM Airport Systems. Britta completed her degree in business studies and languages in the UK and then worked for some 20 years in the aviation industry. Not quite as long as me, Britta, but close. She's her last position was director of EMEA for the American Airlines, selling and leasing Boeing 747 aircraft to commercial airlines. USM Airport Systems was founded in 2011 to offer furnishings for all passenger handling processes in airports and is based on the Swiss-made USM modular furniture system. Britta took the opportunity of combining her love for interior design with her knowledge and contacts in the airline industry to take up the role of CEO of USM Airport Systems. So I'd like to hand over the microphone to Britta.
Thank you very much, Lynn. So to get straight into it, USM, what does that stand for? Because I'm sure many of you don't know us. USM, or the US stands for Ulrich Scherer. That was the founder of USM. The company was actually founded in 1885. So we've been around for quite some time. And the M stands for Münsingen, which is a small town in the middle of Switzerland. On to the next slide. So this is an image of our factory. It's at the foot of the Swiss Alps, and I think anyone who's ever been to Switzerland or is planning to go to Switzerland, we would be delighted for you to come visit us, because I think when you actually see the area, you will completely understand why we are known to be an intrinsically sustainable company. The area, just the air you breathe is so fresh that one has to feel this sort of relationship with the environment. And the factory itself is actually completely modular. So the story has it that the third generation owner of USM, that was Paul Scherer, he was going on a skiing trip and met a architect in the ski lift. The architect was called Fritz Haller, and the two of them decided to find a way of building in a modular concept. And the factory, which you can see here, this image, the first buildings were erected in 1963. Until 2000, there have been constant expansions using this modular concept. If we look at the next slide, they then decided, as this works incredibly well, can we not find some kind of interior furniture also based on this modular concept? And the patent of USM is this brass chromed ball, a connector and a tube, and that makes the whole frame of USM. And in between that frame are the metal panels. And these metal panels are powder coated, so they come in 15 different colors, solvent free and heavy metal free, of course. And that is a typical scenario of a USM configuration for the home. We can then show a configuration for the office, which would be the next slide. Exactly the same patent, same panels, same idea, just a completely different configuration, of course. And because the panels are just clipped in, there's no glue or anything, which means that 10 years later or however long, you can completely change the configuration if need be. So what would that look like for an airport? Well, the next slide shows a typical scenario of a gate counter. And the sustainable beauty of it is that if, for example, these two gate counters should be made into one, which sometimes happens, it's just a few tubes and panels that have to be added to make that into one gate counter. Then we have the scenario, which is very common at airports, that the IT changes. We all know that. So if, for example, a scanner gets replaced by a new version, it's a case of one panel. You just clip out one panel that has a new, we then send you the panel with the new cutout, and you just clip the next one in. Or things like if you say, actually, we don't need scanners at all anymore, we're just going to use facial recognition units. It's always a matter of just a few panels. Anyway, going on to the next slide. So back to sustainability, what is our sustainable vision, our goals and our targets? So I think this one paragraph really sums it up in a nutshell. Our vision for sustainability at USM is that we become a truly circular business. We want our products to be manufactured ethically in an energy, water and resource efficient way, generating minimum greenhouse gas emissions. We want our products to stay in use during their entire potential lifespan and to support our clients in achieving this end. Our commitment to sustainability focuses on 4 key areas: emissions, manufacturing, people, and circularity. And those are the 4 points we're going to look at a little bit more closely. We have, so in 2015, the United Nations came up with a number of sustainability goals after the Paris Agreement. That was in December 2015. There are 17 sustainability goals in total, and USM is concentrated on the SDG, as they're called, number 12, which is the responsible consumption and production goal. So how do we reach those goals? The next slide. We have committed ourselves to a initiative called the Science-Based Target Initiative. We committed ourselves in 2021 to reduce our emissions by a specific time, which for us is 2030. This Science-Based Target Initiative is a worldwide platform where companies can commit themselves to reducing emissions. If we go on to the next slide. And USM has done so by being very, very concrete in how they will do that. But first of all, to reduce your emissions, you have to measure them so you know how to reduce them. And the Science-Based Target Initiative has divided emissions into 3 different scopes. So we have scope 1. I always remember them with the 3 B's. Scope 1 is burn. So if a company has an asset and you are manufacturing a product, you will be burning some kind of energy. That is your scope 1. Included in that are also company cars. Scope 2 is buy, so all the energy that you are buying in to produce your product or just to run the company. Purchased heating, steam for cooling, anything like that, that goes into scope 2, and also purchased electricity, things like lighting, running your computers, all that kind of thing. And scope 3, that is a very difficult one. Scope 3 is the other B, which is beyond. That's divided into 15 categories and a very difficult one to measure. It is also divided into upstream activities and downstream. So upstream is everything before production. So buying in your raw materials, how do you do that? Business travel, fuel and energy related activities, all kind of activities before production, and downstream is everything after production. So a very typical one is how to distribute your goods. If we go on to the next slide. And USM has set its target, and this can all be seen online. I've actually at the bottom there, you can see the link. And you can everyone in their own time can actually go onto that website and input a company and see what their initiatives are. But USM has committed to reduce its absolute scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions by 42% by 2030, and its scope 3 emissions by 25% within the same time frame. So the scope 3 target is a tough one, but we are pretty convinced that we'll manage it. And the next slide. So looking at manufacturing, USM has right from the get-go been very, very dedicated to this. For example, since 2007, we hold the Green Guard certificate, also about emissions, so the testing of production processes proving low emissions, which has allowed us to be eligible for the LEED point system, which I think is very well known throughout the US. And since 2018, we hold the Cradle to Cradle certificate. So all these 3 really dedicate themselves to the manufacturing aspect. Next slide. Circularity, well, this starts right at the beginning. So this is also to do with buying in the raw materials. We at USM, we try and buy, or we actually do source all our raw materials from Switzerland, so we reduce transport emissions. Points like recycling, so collection and recycling. This deals with, for example, if panels are or don't meet the quality standards, they are sent back to the steel manufacturer and melted down again and produced once again. Things like packaging. Packaging is a huge point at USM, that all packaging is recycled. If we look at the design aspect of the product, that is all this whole modularity. The whole concept is modular. So right from the design phase, it is a modular and reuse concept. Distribution, we touched on that before, that the distribution or the modes of transport we use are emission friendly. So we try and keep things like air freight down to a minimum. And then all this, we've called it sharing, but it's basically that we, in the office, for example, we try and support things like co-working, so that companies really don't purchase furniture that isn't needed. We want really our customers to purchase only exactly what they need and use that for the whole lifespan of the product. Exactly, the next point, prolonging the lifespan of the piece of furniture, and making sure that maintenance is carried out so it's reused and reused and reused. We do not want to shorten the lifespan of a piece of USM furniture, and we certainly don't want to avoid, or we want to avoid the take, make, and dispose of mentality. We also have a concept at USM where it's often used in the home and the office, where second-hand pieces are bought. It manages to keep its value very well, so that if for some reason a company says, actually, we don't need all this storage space, we're not using that much paper anymore, that that the second-hand market is used, and the furniture can not only then be the same piece of storage space, but a different type of storage space. So that's really the whole circularity concept of USM. And the next slide. And the last point is our responsibility to the people who actually work at USM. I think it's very interesting, or it amazed me actually when I started at USM, that a lot of people actually did their apprenticeship there and have worked their whole working life at USM. And this whole sustainability aspect is absolutely part of them. So they don't know anything else. It really is what they're made of. And I think that is very evident when one visits us and one walks through our factory and meets the people, that is a very large part of the company. So that's it from my side. Thanks for listening, and I'll be very interested if any of you have any questions afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Britta. Very interesting stuff what you're doing, and very ambitious, and exciting to see how that transforms the company. And just saying, personally, I had the pleasure of visiting the factory for the first time earlier this year. And I have to say, it blew me away. It's very, very impressive. So if anyone here has an opportunity to go, I highly recommend it. But thank you very much, Britta. So our last speaker today, I'm very, very pleased to introduce Ginger G. DeFurio. With over 50 total aviation projects to her credit, Ginger is instrumental in expanding Corgan's presence in the aviation market. Ginger executes a well-curated design strategy and balances trend forecasting with timeless design while enhancing aesthetic. She transcends the commonplace perception of hospitality, winning top airport awards for her projects and remain her client's most trusted advisor. As studio design director, Ginger leads teams starting with conceptual schematic design through to construction administration. Her project ranges from 100-gate international airports to bespoke premium lounges, one of which we will hear about as a case study in a few minutes. As a leader in aviation design, Ginger was the Interior Design HIP Award winner for 2024. So everybody help me welcome Ginger T.
Well, thank you, Lynn, for that introduction. So now we've heard and learned a lot about really the sustainable manufacturing process and the science behind it. I'd like to speak to the design and the selection considerations from the owners and the designers' perspective. So first, that's touched on social and corporate responsibilities. As you may know, not all the airports and airlines, their sustainability goals were created equal, right? It is important for the designers to understand the owner's vision and the project objectives so we can help them come up with the right strategies from the macro level of building systems to the micro level of furniture and finishes. So we typically find our clients are open and willing to doing the right thing, but it has to make sense from financial standpoint. And then while we are very sensible with the dollars, one strategy to get the owners and designers on the same page is to look at sustainability practice as part of the overall success in terms of passenger experience, especially when health, well-being, and eco-friendly designs are really the top priorities for the millennials and the Gen Z travelers these days. Additionally, sustainability is a great marketing tool for any brand. It can boost the airport and the airline's reputation to attract passengers, and it can also elevate their internal culture from recruiting and employee engagement standpoint. Moving on to the practice side, we pay attention to three main categories when making selections. We look at sustainable products that are locally sourced, recycled, upcycled, that are modular, flexible, and then can be reconfigured. And also we look at product that can be reused and refurbished, very much, echo back to what Brita and Sandra just talked about. We choose healthy materials with low environmental impact and low VOC content with long life cycles. We also research and learn about each product's manufacturing process, making sure their practice aligns with our requirements. So as Lynn mentioned earlier, we thought it would be interesting to go over one of the Corgan projects, one of the lounge projects as a case study to show you how we can integrate sustainability practice and the design concept in a holistic way and then really kind of seamlessly blend them together. So the project that we're looking at, it's the Club SFO. This is a collaboration between Corgan and Airport Dimensions. Airport Dimensions is the owner for the Club lounge brand, and they have lounges throughout the US internationally. And this one is located at SFO New Terminal 1. The terminal, it's a LEED Platinum building. They have a set of requirements for furniture selections. They're required to be free of all antimicrobial, flame retardant, fluorinated and polyfluorinated, which is PFAS chemicals. They need to contain less than 1% of PVC and also low VOC emissions and must meet one of the many testing standards. Next one. So now you can kind of see the mood board for the design. The club design concept is really centered around the theme of Northern California natural. As you step into the entry lobby, you will immediately notice that the design is inspired by the towering redwood forest. The color palette in the lobby features neutral background of soft white and grays, sprinkled with rich greens, copper, matte black, and metallic gold. They're all part of the lounge's nature-inspired DNA. We have a holistic and comprehensive sustainability story with this design. Starts with the use of a low-flow plumbing fixtures, LED lighting throughout, full-service electric kitchen, and all of this just to reduce energy and waste consumption. We also made mindful material choices, including PVC-free fabrics, and reclaim wood to reduce our carbon footprint. The owner is also making extensive recycling and composting efforts to minimize waste. The design is biophilic throughout, integrates greenery and natural elements to really enhance travelers' health and well-being. And this lounge also has a wellness room that encourage physical exercise, and then we even promote physical activity by encouraging guests to use the stairs instead of the elevators. Next one. Okay, so as part of the design concept, reclaimed and salvaged wood material is showcased as a major design element in this lounge. The entry lobby wood backdrop came from a California winery. They have been converting their redwood wine vat to aluminum, and we were able to reclaim those redwood planks and make them into the large wall panel as you see in the pictures. The slab for the signature dining table came from a giant maple burl that grew just outside of Seattle, estimated to be at least 100 years old, maybe 200. The tree was dying and had to be cut down due to safety concerns. So we salvaged a portion of it to create the 8-foot diameter resin wooden tabletops. As you can kind of see when they cut down the tree, it's really quite amazing. Next slide. The lighting design in the lounge, it's very gentle and very soothing. In the main lounge area, as you can see in the picture, it is supposed to remind us of a stroll through the woods. The perforated ceiling allows dapple lights to filter through and creating shadows on the floor surface, mimicking sunlight shining through a forest canopy. Next slide, please. And here we'll talk about art a little bit. You may know that SFO, the airport, has a very sophisticated art program. We want to honor that in our design by commissioning artwork from local artists. You can see the portion on the left. This is the portion of Denise Law's very unique collage. It's made from upcycled foil-lined packaging and capsule seals. And so portions of the seal, the foil was slightly repositioned up and down based on the humidity of the space. And so the art has kind of a kinetic quality to it. On the right of the image, you can see it's in the bar lounge area. We have a stunning custom 40-foot wall mural. It's depicting the redwood forest. And once again, it intertwines the nature and art. And not only this is a primary design concept of the lounge, but also echoing the SFO Museum's mission, which is to humanize the airport environment and showcase the unique culture life of the Bay Area. Next, please. And here we're looking at, on the left, it's a bar lounge. The bar lounge channels the ambiance of a secluded cabin in the woods. The design is highlighted by rectangular glowing wood ceiling coffers and plush club chairs and sofas to give that cabin feel. And on the right, you can see there's the family room is nestled all the way at the back of the lounge. And it was designed with a very playful spirit. You can see the tree-like structure branches out to integrate both the lighting design and bench seating as one cohesive design element. The material palette has various shades of greens, and it has a very whimsical tree ring pattern. And this is appealing to both children and adults. Next one, please. There are several innovative amenities in this lounge. At the top of the stairs, the main lounge level, as soon as you arrive, you're being greeted by a cozy fire pit that draws inspirations from Northern California's lifestyle. You can imagine yourself spending a cool evening around the fire and drinking a cup of hot cocoa. The seating area forms what we call a microclimate zone, where a water vapor fireplace generates a very realistic 3D flames, but remains cool to the touch. But the radiant floor heating in that zone raises the temperature by 2 degrees to create that microclimate. Next one, please. Adjacent to the main seating area, there are also 3 luminescence rooms. They are the first of its kind in the US lounge. These rooms, they offer travelers the ability to adjust the lighting color temperature to suit their circadian rhythms. So the warm orange light will help you relax, and the cool blue light will provide a boost to energize you. Keep going, the next one. We talked about the wellness room earlier, right? So the wellness room offers a calm and serene workout environment. We have reindeer moss and wood tone that really enhance the overall aesthetics in the room. There are 2 fitness mirrors are provided for the guests to customize their workout. And there's also complimentary equipment available for exercise and routines on the go, such as the yoga mats. Next one. And just very quick, additionally, there's a relaxation room that's tucked away and features a very tranquil light wall that's designed to encourage a slower pace and to induce a calming travel experience. And next. So, the club SF, we achieved the LEED Gold certification. So this is the first LEED Gold club in the owners network. And it was just a wonderful experience that to have everyone's buy-in, the airport owner and the designer, right, and champion for the effort. I hope, this inside look of the lounge design inspires many of you to make sustainable practice as part of your lifestyle. And I will just leave you with this quote from Sir Paul. There must be a better way to make the things we want, a way that doesn't spoil the sky or the rain or the land. And with that, I will turn it back to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Ginger. And what a beautiful lounge. We had a pleasure of working on the Harvey Milk Terminal as well, on the public areas. And I haven't been to the lounge yet, but I definitely have. It's on my list next time I'm going through the airport. I'm going to have to go check it out. It looks beautiful. So thank you very much. We just go to the next slide there, Lisa, if we can. So again, we're at the Q&A portion of our presentation today. We have 10 minutes left today, and I hope you found some of these initiatives that our 3 panelists have undertaken with their companies. I hope you found them interesting and inspiring, and we would love to have some questions from the audience. We already have one here, but I'm going to start off with one for Ginger, since we just heard from her. Ginger, I'm curious about your design process when you first meet with a client. You have those initial meetings where I guess they're talking about their vision. Where does sustainability come into the discussion? Like, is this something that comes later on? Is it client driven? Do you drive? Where do you see that coming in on the process?
Yeah, so sustainability is really, completely integrated into Corgan's practice, both in architecture and interior design. So we don't really look at sustainability as something to add on or to, figuring out when to bring it forward. Really, from the get-go, when we meet with the client, usually we will start a visioning session that you will talk about everything, right? The programs, the look and feel, what their visions are. And that's when we establish the sustainability goals. And that's definitely one of the hot topics we always, bring in front of the client. And every client have different needs, and then we will cater their strategy based on what the project is all about. But every single project that we do at Corgan, that we track our sustainability efforts.
Great, thank you. We have a question here from one of our attendees here. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, Shreyash. In an airport environment, more specifically in the gate holds, customers sit for at least an hour pre-flight. Given that padded seats are widely recognized as the most ergonomically suitable product for long periods of seating, are there green solutions that GFC explored to provide padded options for their sustainable seating lines? So Sandra, this is directed to you clearly. And I know I've been asked this before, and I know you and I have talked about this before. So what do you have to say to one of our audience members here on that question?
Thank you for your question. I love this question. Because it's such a good question. And it's a natural question, I think. There is this perception, a widespread, globally accepted perception that padded seating is soft and therefore comfortable, and unpadded seating is hard and therefore uncomfortable. It's such a basic logic, and I think we all share it. And a lot of times it's true. It's truly, a lot of times it's true. I can think of, growing up and having wooden benches at school during sports, and you sit on it for an hour and you feel awful. It is very often true, but not with our furniture, and that's something I'm very proud of. I tell you and I'll explain the reason. So I have personally worked at a lot of trade shows for our product, where we get sort of rapid fire reactions to the product. And I would say the number one reaction that we get immediately when people sit down is, oh, this is so much more comfortable than I thought it would be. So I think the bottom line, if you boil it all down, the bottom line is that when seating is designed properly with the correct ergonomic curvatures, it should be equally, if not possibly even more comfortable than some upholstered padded furniture. I'm not saying that it will always be more comfortable, because there are some seats that are incredibly padded and wonderful, but it truly does come down to ergonomics. And I have sat down in wooden seats that are curved, that are not comfortable, and others that are marvelously and surprisingly comfortable. And that's what it boils down to. And we've discovered a shape that seems, based on decades of reaction, seems to conform to all different body types: tall, short, large, or small. So hopefully this does answer the question. Of course, you will have to try it for yourself to really appreciate what I'm saying. And hopefully you'll remember that Sandra lady on the call who said that it was comfortable, and I wanted to believe her, but now I do. So
Yeah, and I agree with you, Sandra. It's very much shape. We have a product in our tandem seating line, Avro, which has a molded polypropylene shell. And people at first say, oh, I don't, polypropylene, that's gonna be hard to sit. And then they sit in it, it's a shape. And they're like, oh, whoa, okay. So it's less the material and more of the shape. And there are some very padded seats out there that are very that
Not
just are at the wrong angle, they're not ergonomic, and they're not,
Right.
it really changes the experience.
So
So
Lynn, I have to say, the myth is padded is soft, therefore comfortable. Unpadded is hard, therefore uncomfortable. And hopefully we can help to break that myth.
and of course, when you have the wood, it's that sustainability, not all upholstery is very sustainable, and foam can be challenging too. So there are definitely offsets on that. So we're going to move on to we have a couple other questions here I'd like to get to. So this one's from Mia. So many great initiatives. Thank you, Mia. I'd like to know how you mix intersectionality, hope I said that right, with sustainable design. For instance, prioritizing accessibility and equity within the design elements and fixtures necessary for airports. I don't know, maybe Britta, do you want to tackle that one?
No, thank you.
I can take this one. I can take this one.
This really sounds like something for an architect.
You're exactly right.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, so I think, I understand what you're asking, when we're designing a terminal or just any project, in fact, we always look at the human-centered design as a whole, right? So while sustainability, it's important, it has to work with accessibility, inclusion, and like I talked about earlier, well-being. So everything, it's all encompassing, all works together as part of the whole. So I don't think there's necessarily a priority. Obviously there's code, right? We need to make sure we meet the code, which there is accessibility code, there is a sustainability code that we have to meet. But really from design standpoint, everything is all encompassing. It's human centered. We make sure the environment is going to promote the health and well-being and just all the social responsibility of our society. That's really the big goal here. So I
Yeah,
hope that
and
answered your question. So
and I agree with you, Ginger. And we work a lot with, a very well-known organization called Open Doors out of Chicago. And really what they advocate for this is that you not all differing abilities, we say, are visible necessarily. There's visible and then there's non-visible, and everybody's looking for something a little different. So one of their key strategies that they recommend is for the furniture in particular, in general, in public spaces, that providing a diversity of product so that people can self-select and gravitate towards the pieces that make more sense for them is really the best possible outcome. So very interesting. Like you said, there's code, but there's also the passenger experience and how do you surpass that? I hope that answers. And I think Mia had another question here, and I'll just paraphrase it a little bit here. It seems like what Mia's asking is just to do these green designs in manufacturing. So I address this to Britta and to Sandra. Is basically, is there a cost factor to that? How do the prices compare to go with a green sustainable product as opposed to just standard run-of-the-mill, what's available out there type product? Maybe Britta, because I know with this question comes up quite a few times when we're talking about USM versus millwork, for instance, which your pieces are an alternative to millwork. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, it's a very good point, because yes, it is more expensive to source, for example, local steel, green steel. It is more expensive to source green electricity. All of it has a price. That is absolutely right. And I can only obviously say from our perspective that our product is, for the first time buy, probably more expensive than the competition. But in the long run, it is because if anything does happen to it, if it does get scratched or it does get dented or whatever, it is just a matter of one panel. And we've often found that comparing our product to that of a millwork product, ours is a factory built one. So it is, from a cost perspective, always cheaper than a bespoke millwork option. And coming back to the sustainability aspect, yes, it really is a cost-intensive option to go for something that is green. But in a company like ours, it is the only option. Yeah.
One last question. I just we have about 1 minute left. Sandra, I'm very interested. I mean, your company was founded long before, sustainability was such a priority for so many of your customers, and it's kind of it's interesting that your company was founded with that goal in mind. I just wondered if you could tell me a little bit what inspired your the creation of Green Furniture Concept, just very quickly in the last 60 seconds we've got.
Sure, it's a great question, and you're right. What gave us the right to call ourselves green, put it in our company name? I think it all just comes to the history of our company and our founder, Johan Baron. And he, as a young child, his father was in the furniture manufacturing industry, and he used to go to the factories as a young child. This is years ago, decades ago. And there wasn't, there was always sort of a chemically odor in the factories, and that marked him, and that to the point where he wanted to be part of a change towards the better. And he also became interested in designing furniture, obviously, as becoming the founder of our company. And he set out to do it in a way that was eliminating those volatile organic compounds, those VOCs in the air, and clearing away all the harmful materials that are traditionally or were traditionally built into furniture. So that's the little anecdote that led to where we were,
Interesting.
where we are.
Well, clearly he had a vision and was
Yeah.
very successful with it. Well, that wraps up our panel today. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. And of course, our email, you'll all have a link to this presentation. And if you have any more questions or think about anything, you have the email addresses of all our panelists below. But thank you again for spending an hour with us, and hope you found it very exciting. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lynn. That was a wonderful webinar, and thank you so much to Arconas for sponsoring this webinar, for all of you that joined us today, and thank you to Sandra, Britta, and Ginger for sharing everything about their companies and their philosophies on sustainability, and really, really excellent content. So I want to thank you all for taking the time today to make those presentations. And with that, we're going to give everyone their afternoon back. And thank you so much for joining us today. And we will be providing all of you with a copy of the recording and also with a copy of the handout from today's presentation. And you should be receiving that tomorrow. So thank you, everyone. And thank you to our great panel and Arconas. Have a great afternoon.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, everyone.